they are pinned together here because of the last minute copies I had to make. Oh, there you go, thank you. Hopefully I have enough. More. Okay. So I looked at the spreadsheet that we were given at the last meeting, at the end of our last meeting. And a couple of things, a couple points to make about the House Bill 360.
Do you have a handout for us?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Forgot you guys. Imagine that. Here you go. A lot of discussion about House Bill 360. So I read the Ohio Legislative Service Commission final analysis of that. And by the way, House Bill 360 has been replaced by House Bill 59 on June 30th, 2015. And it does limit the number of PSAPs a county can have. But a county our size can have 3. So we are well within that limit, and no one's forcing us to be 1 PSAP. The bill does state, though, that in order to be in compliance, the PD staff must be fully staffed with 2 dispatchers on duty at all times. The cost of the county doing this will be at least $320,000, $325,23. That is the 747,140, which is wages, benefits, and health columns. And I'm just going with the first year. There's 2%. The sheriff has put in 2% per. I'm on the first page of dispatch costs. So to be in compliance with the full staffed PSAP, it'll cost the county $320,523, which is, this is what the sheriff projected we will spend in 2016, minus what we are currently spending according to page 22 of the feasibility study. So according to the feasibility study, we are spending $426,617 currently for PSAP. Okay, so it'll cost us $320,000. House Bill 59 says that the penalty for not complying is losing half of our wireless 911 funds, which right now is about $45,000. So not being in compliance is quite a significant money saving. There is no threat of the state coming in and taking over our services or forcing us to merge with anyone. With that being said, I really do think that the merger needs to happen. I think that it makes sense to have 2 dispatchers on at all times. So I'm in favor of the merger, but I'm not in favor of the levy. Okay, so it isn't right to ask Eaton to contribute to the cost of our communication with the merger discussion. So I've split out the numbers the sheriff has given us into 2 parts. The first page is the dispatch costs. I want to talk about those first. And the second page that you'll have is my analysis of the dispatch merger with the sheriff's numbers. I used the 747,140, which is the first 3 columns of the dispatch costs. Now, I did use the feasibility study for operating costs because the operating costs on the dispatch, if you look at the dispatch page, those operating costs were only $74,000. The operating costs in the feasibility study were $165,000, which seemed to include everything like the office expenses and future tech costs. So I added, on that second page, you can see the dispatcher 747,140, which is using the personnel cost of the sheriff, operating cost of 165 from the feasibility study, which adds up to the 912,140. We do have the one-time transition cost, $84,000. So I still believe that a shared service agreement is the way to go to be in compliance with the state and thus continue to receive our $45,000 in 911 money. And saving the city of Eaton significant money. So with no levy, I propose the county pays $600,000 and Eaton pays $300,000, and we have the $900,000. And if you want to add 2% in going forward, I mean, that's only 2%. That's not millions. All right, so as for the communication piece, all right, so does anybody have any questions on the dispatch piece? I did add the post-warranty column from the sheriff's spreadsheet. I added that in, that's the consoles. We've been told that's communication, but since the consoles started all this argument, all this controversy, I added it into the dispatch costs. So either way you go. Any questions on the dispatch piece thus far? These are the exact numbers that the sheriff gave us 2 weeks ago. All right. The next page is the communication costs. These are all the columns from the spreadsheet the sheriff gave us. And right now, the sheriff told me in an email that we are spending $74,000 for communication. I'd like to know how we go from spending $74,000 to $477,000. I realize that we have towers to replace that cost $1 million, but the new numbers in the capital expense column is over $3 million. With this $1 million that we're looking at, we need to discuss, we could get a low interest loan. Our county has an excellent credit rating. We could get a low interest loan, spread it out over 10 years, and put those payments into the sheriff's budget and pay for the tower replacement that he says we need. So maybe someone can explain to me how we're going from $74,000 to $477,000 with only needing $1 million for towers. Okay, so that's the communication piece. I asked our auditor, this last 2 pages, one of you may have 2 pages of the same thing, because I'm up here sorting at the last minute, so. I asked our auditor to provide me with a breakdown of who would contribute what of the $1.3 million that the levy will generate. She provided me with numbers that the city would be bringing in. So this first page is what the total will bring in, $1.305,290.50. And the second page shows that the city of Eaton, with the levy, will bring in $215,560. That doesn't even cover the cost of our taking their employees and training them, because I think it's going to be at least $320,000 just to cover the employees the first year. So this $200,000 that the levy will bring in from Eaton doesn't even cover those costs. I'm suggesting that if the levy passes, the city pays $200,000 toward the expense of the dispatch center, and this will save them more than half of what they're currently spending. I also suggest that any money that we are currently spending on dispatch and communication be retained in the general fund. And according to the numbers I have, which came from the sheriff either directly or via the feasibility study, we are spending $657,000 between communication and dispatch. That's $583 from dispatch and $74 from the communication. If we pass a levy to take more money from the pockets of our residents to have a dedicated funding stream for dispatch, I think we should figure out a way to return the money that we are currently spending on dispatch and communication to the taxpayers. Maybe a reduction in sales tax. It could be something we could discuss. But if we're going to take more money out of one pocket, we need to try to restore it in the other pocket. We're going to have our dedicated funding stream. And my last point, and this is a real concern of mine. If we put this on the ballot and we don't need it, how are the people going to trust us when we do need it? When we come to them and we say, we need money. I'm saying right now, from the figures, even the sheriff's figures, that we do not need a levy. The $1 million we can pay for, the tower replacement we can pay for with the low interest loan. If we had a shared service agreement with Eaton, we would not need a levy.
Anything else? Okay. I guess for my take, we've been going through this since 2013. I look back through my notes, and that's my notes. When we initially started this, we decided to go with the study, form a committee, go through the study. The study has come up with some recommendations. I wasn't totally pleased with the study, but they did come up with some suggestions, some guidelines. And while I understand what the House bills state at this point in time, I do know that the push from the legislature is going to be minimum staffing, minimum training, and I think that they're probably going to get all of that eventually. Some of this was done as a trade-off when the 911 monies, I forget what we paid before. Was it 32 cents originally? Originally it was 32 cents for every call you made or your cell phone. went for 911. They haven't negotiated back down, but I do know the legislature, and sitting through our meetings, they've made it very clear that they've cut those monies. They restored them, I think, at 23, I believe they're at now. Is that correct, Sheriff?
25 now.
25 now. But it was a fight to get it there. They wanted to do away with those altogether. But they made it clear they're going to streamline these PSAPs in some form. Now, what that is, I don't know. But I guess my statement to this is, we've gone through the study. The study said that the bottom line, that the not the most popular way, but the clearly the best way is to put it before the voters to fund something like this. I too believe that we need to put it before the voters, let them decide, and if that doesn't work, then we're going to have to figure out what we're going to have to do. In looking at reduction of cost in the future, there might be some reduction of cost. I don't know that that's going to be the case. I too believe that we need to take any savings and put that into additional deputies or whatever that may be. That's something, depending on what the dollars are, I don't know what those will be, but I think we need to, if there are additional savings, I think we need to work with the sheriff in a long and short range plan. The biggest thing is it's got to be sustainable. Having been through 2009 when we were here and we had to do layoffs, if you put people on and you can't sustain them long term, there are no savings whatsoever, and that really puts you in a bind. I mean, if you have to lay someone off and still have to pay them for 1 to 2 years out, there's no savings in the short term, and that's people don't understand that, so I don't want to get in that position, but I think we need to work with the sheriff. Unfortunately, the costs continue to rise with law enforcement, with everything, but with law enforcement, they just continue to go up and up. It's very frustrating. I know we're all frustrated. These guys do a good job, but a lot of times they're out here beating the streets, and they do their job, and these people, we can keep them back home. So I don't know what the answer is there, but I believe we need to continue working with the Sheriff's Department to help his staff. So I think that my opinion is we need to let the people decide. If they decide they aren't satisfied with what we have, then we'll have to step back and take a look at it.
Being opposed to taking more money from the taxpayers does not mean that I am opposed to anything that the sheriff and the police officers do in this county. They do an excellent job. I sat with the dispatcher for a very non-busy morning. She was pretty busy. Not being against a levy that the sheriff wants doesn't mean that I'm against the sheriff or his deputies or any of the law enforcement in this county. They are necessary. They protect our rights. When someone comes onto my property and someone steals something, you know, I want to be able to call the sheriff and the sheriff be there to take a report and find the bad guy. So just because I'm for this merger, I think the merger would be a good thing for the city and the county. And just because I am against the levy to pay for it, especially when the communication costs go from $74,000 to $477,000 the first year, it does not mean that I am against what the sheriff and his deputies do, because they are important. You cannot have a civilized society without law enforcement, without peace officers. And not complying with the unfunded mandates, the state is not the boogeyman. The state, they cannot come in and force us to do things. They have to run through a process. They're elected also. And if the state continues to press these unfunded mandates onto us, then maybe they shouldn't be in office anymore. They're elected also. Currently, the wireless 911 funds that they're holding over our heads, that's the only teeth that this House Bill 59 has in it. The only teeth that it has is holding back the wireless 911 money, and that's 50% of the wireless 911 money. It's sitting in a fund. We have $320,000, I don't know what the exact number is, But we have over $300,000 sitting in that fund not being used. So not getting money that we're not using doesn't seem like much of a threat to me. I looked at the numbers and I used the sheriff's numbers, and we are well within, I mean, we're doing very well as a county. When we made cuts in 2008, that was a wise decision. That board made some smart decisions. But the sheriff's budget has been restored to pre-2008 costs. I mean,
334,000.
they're missing 334,000?
No, that's not on wireless fund.
Oh, okay. So the sheriff's budget has been restored from those cuts. We're doing well as a county. And the last thing I wanted to say about the feasibility study, it stated that the cleanest way to pay for this is through a levy. It didn't say it was the only way. I don't know, and I haven't been presented with any city and county, any city that has been able to take their money, take their costs from a PSAP and give it to the county and walk away. I've not been presented with any example of that anywhere in the state where the city who already has the service doesn't pay something for it to someone when it's no longer their service. They contract out with someone to provide the service.
I think you just answered your own question. You said you haven't talked to anybody that's not paying into it. And I think you just validated my point that everybody needs to pay into it.
Okay, well,
because if you call up the CCAO, they've never seen a county that people aren't paying into it.
right. And
So in order for us to, if you want to be like everybody else, everybody needs to pay into it. That is a levy.
well, and that would be up to the sheriff to decide what is a fair thing for all the villages and the townships to pay. Because to me, that's the way it's been working. We've been sitting over here minding our own business. If there was a financial struggle and a financial trouble with the sheriff providing that service, I would hope that we would have already heard that. And if he needs that money from the villages, I can't imagine it would be a significant amount.
Divide 1.3 million over.
But if
all
he
townships.
needs that, then he can come to us and say, I need to ask the villages and the townships for money. Up until this point, we haven't come to that, we haven't crossed that bridge at all. It's never been even brought up until we started talking about this merger and Eaton not wanting to pay anything.
I think another point I'd like to make, Denise, because you're making some good points, is you said that the sheriff's budget's back to where it was in 2009.
2008, 2009 when we cut.
2009 is when they made the cuts. We have a lot less people. The costs have continued, the costs have gone up, or the cost of fuel, the cost of vehicles, the wages, the insurance. So we're paying the same amount in 2009 for a lot less, and that's what's going to happen with this.
Well,
The costs are going to continue to increase and increase and increase. And, I mean, when you go, this used to be a 20-ounce bottle of water. We paid $1 for it. Now it's a 16-ounce bottle of water, and we're paying $1.90 for it. That's the same as what we're going on. I mean, you're paying more, and you're maybe getting less. You know, at the store you're getting less. Now with here, we've got to keep our quality of service up, and we are going to be paying more and more and more. There's nothing you can do about it. But I'm telling you right now, if you can find $844,000 over the next 13 years, and it's not going to put everybody in a pinch, then I agree we don't need a levy.
Oh, we get to spread the $800,000 over 13 years?
Don't put words in my mouth.
I'm just asking you.
I said if you come up with $844,000 a year for the next 13
And see, I just showed you where we don't need $800,000 per year. I just showed you where we don't need that.
That's all I had to say.
Let's see, there was something you said I wanted to respond to. Oh, if we ever come to a point where we are in danger of losing any of our public safety, in danger of losing any of our services that are vital to us in the county, I will come to you and I will tell you we need a levy. If we come to that point where we're scratching the bottom and we're trying to figure out, you know, we're not sitting on $4 million in our cash balance, when we're down to next to nothing and we're ready to lose those vital services, I will assuredly come to you and tell you that we need a levy. Right now, that's not the case at all. We're not, and when I do that, it will be after we've made cuts to whatever we can make cuts to make sure that we are spending your money as responsibly as possible. But when I come to you and say we need a levy, I want to be able to say it to you with a straight face, we need a levy. Right now, I can look out and say, we do not need a levy. We have the money to do this with a shared service agreement with Eden.